All right, so the Surface Pro 8 came out recently, and this is a really nice device. It's been updated for this year, new design, 120 hertz display, decent performance, and it has USB 4, Thunderbolt 4. So a lot of the things that people were asking for have finally come onto this year's device, and it's a good one. However, this is a super expensive product. So this thing starts at $1,100 for the base product, and the pen and the keyboard are an extra $280 or so. It is a $1,400 product once you have everything in there, just for like the base model with 128 gigs of storage. So for all that it's worth, like as good as it is, as updated as it's become, it is super expensive. Now, last week I was sent this device, and when it came in, the first comparison you draw is like, okay, this is a Surface-like product, right? The thing is, this is $600. This is less than half the price of this one right here. So, okay, in addition to the tablet that you get for the $600, it includes the pen, it includes the keyboard, and I think it includes this case. I don't know, like it came in the box, but it wasn't like the retail product. So the review unit comes with that sleeve. I don't know if it does in the real version, but for this money, $600, the feature that is super special is the screen. This is an OLED panel. It's the first product out there in this 2-in-1 form factor that is an OLED panel, and it is a visual treat, dude. This thing is super vibrant, super colorful, and it's so strange to see this type of display on a product like this. So this screen is a 13-inch 16:9 OLED panel, and it's awesome for media consumption. The thing that really separates this screen from this one is the contrast ratio, right? Because it's an OLED panel, when the pixels are off, they're just off. They're black. They're pure black. So any kind of like dark scene looks dark the way it should be. Now this screen is also 13 inches, but it's a different kind of screen. It's an IPS panel, so the image doesn't look as vibrant, but it's 120 hertz, it's high resolution, and it's a 3:2 aspect ratio. So that kind of aspect ratio is nicer for productivity or any kind of like vertically oriented work. And it's also nicer if you're holding the product in a vertical manner for a tablet. There's just more room on the left and right for viewing your stuff. But when it comes to viewing content, there's invariably going to be black bars on the top and bottom. It's not a huge deal, but it just gives you a smaller viewing experience of the content that you're watching. Now, if you compare these two screens side by side, it just looks so much nicer on the Slate. It's just a better visual experience. Any kind of visual medium looks better on the Slate. It's so strange that this is half the price, less than half the price of this thing, and it's just a better screen for media consumption. Now, in terms of the keyboards, on the Surface Pro 8, this is a newly designed keyboard for this year's model. So if you had a previous Pro keyboard, you can't attach it to this. And there's also a little slot at the top of the keyboard that allows you to slip the pen in, but the actual typing experience and the trackpad experience is very similar to Pro products of the past. This device is, well, the keyboard comes with it doesn't cost any extra. This is not as premium of a feeling keyboard as this. Like this is a soft touch rubber material instead of the Alcantara on the Surface Pro 8, but it's a really nice feeling keyboard. The layout is nice. There is, however, no backlighting. So if that's something you do frequently, like you type in the dark and need that backlighting, this ain't got no lights. Now, there is one other thing that might be of an issue. So on the Pro product, the Surface Pro products, it has the option for like tilting the keyboard. Like if you want to, you can type it on a flat surface, but most people like to have some kind of tilt and they can attach it magnetically and it pops up. This guy, it's flat. It only has the flat orientation. Now for me, I don't like this as much. Now I know some people like the flat, but for me, I definitely like that slant, and this does not have it. You can easily use it, it still works, but just for the people that like the slant, it ain't there. So in terms of the kickstands, on the Surface Pro 8, it has a very similar kickstand to the devices of the past. It goes pretty far back, not quite 180, but it can lie pretty flat, but it's built into the device, and I like that. On the Asus Slate, this is a different kind of experience. So it does tilt, not all the way back, but reasonably far back, but it's a removable segment. And I imagine that it helps to keep the cost down, but it is a little inconvenient to have it like this. Like if you want to pop open the kickstand at one point, you either have to go get it and attach it, or you have to had it on the whole time. And the other thing is, because it attaches magnetically, and it's not like a super strong magnet, you have to hold on to it a little bit if you're manipulating it in certain angles. But I think overall it's a good implementation of it. It's just not nearly as convenient as one that's like built right into the product and it's invisible if you don't want to use the kickstand. But overall, I think they both do the job if you need it. Now, in terms of the speakers, the ones on the Surface Pro 8, they sound better. They're not louder. If anything, they're actually a little bit quieter, but they do sound a little bit cleaner, and the lower frequencies are more present on the Pro 8. The webcam as well. This is just a better webcam. The Surface Pro products have always had excellent webcams, and this is no different this year. The webcam on the Slate is actually not bad as well. Like, I was expecting trash webcam, especially for this price point, but it's actually better than a lot of other devices out there. Now, let's talk about performance. So, these two products have very different performance. The Asus Slate is weaker than the Surface Pro 8. Now, in light tasks and content consumption, you will barely notice the difference. It's all hardware decoded, any kind of stream just comes in, it's viewed perfectly fine on both devices. But if you push these things a little bit harder, if you're doing any kind of like CPU intensive task, let's say Photoshop for example, you will notice that on the Slate, it starts to slow down quicker. Now, if you're looking to play games, most of them will run poorly on the Asus device, so I wouldn't really bother. The Surface Pro 8 is a step up in terms of performance overall. It is, however, not great for any kind of particularly demanding task either. It's better, but it's not like a regular performance laptop. And also games, they can run, but I wouldn't use this as a gaming device. But the thing that I find particularly strange is that with this screen, it's a 120 hertz capable screen, there are almost no games that will run at that kind of frame rate on this device. The integrated graphics are decent, but you'll rarely be able to hit 120 frames per second on any kind of game on Surface devices. However, where you do get nice use of this high refresh screen is with the pen. So any kind of digital illustration or artwork, having a more fluid visual experience when you're laying down pen work or coloring is nice. It feels consistent, it's got great pressure sensitivity, and I personally like this new flat style or flat shape that they have with the new Surface pens. And it also fits right into the case, and it charges when it's in there, which is a very convenient situation. Now, on this one, the Slate, this uses a more standard kind of barrel-shaped pen. I like this as well, but it is definitely more like older style, and it's not very slim, it's a pretty chunky pen, but this works surprisingly well. To be honest, I thought that the pen experience would be kind of lackluster because it's running a kind of lower end processor and because this pen is included in it, but it's pressure sensitive. I will say that the Surface is a little more responsive with very light brush strokes. Like with the Slate, I do feel like it misses occasionally when you're just really light pressure, if you're just grazing the screen. But overall, there's absolutely nothing I would complain about this. The digitizer on the screen is good and the pen is good, like the hardware is there. If you are in Photoshop and you have like a ton of layers, you are gonna be limited with the processor on this thing, right? You can't do super heavy projects on it, but for light use, it's perfectly good. Now to attach the pen to the device, there is a magnetic kind of holster. You can either attach it to the device in advance and then slip your pen through it, or you can do it in the reverse order, but it does attach. Now, I don't think this is nearly as convenient as having it built into the case. I think this is really cool this year, but again, for less than half the price, I'm good with it. Now, in terms of battery life, on the Surface Pro 8, I was getting 8 hours of use with my regular testing, but that's with the screen at 60 hertz. If I bumped it up to 120 hertz, I got barely 5 hours of battery life, which is, it seems a little strange to me. I think there's a software bug going on, but I ran it a couple times. If you bump it up to that high refresh rate, the battery life is just destroyed. On this machine, 7 hours of battery life. It's okay, it's definitely less than the Surface Pro 8, but because it's a cheaper product, and I think the OLED panel is just sucking more juice, I think that's kind of expected. But overall, this product, man, for this kind of price point, it's surprisingly good. Here's the thing, when it comes to 2-in-1 devices, the Surface Pro 8 or the Surface Pro product line has always been like the standard, right? I think it's the best iteration you can have of this type of product, that detachable keyboard, and like they just do a really good job with it, but it's always super expensive. And this year it's extra expensive. Like it's like $200 or $300 more than it was last year for the same kind of entry-level model. This thing at this price point is like, it's special. It feels like it's a really cool product. Now, for people that are looking at a device like this and the reason why they want the tablet is the media consumption experience, this is awesome. That OLED panel is like, it's really, really cool. Okay, there you have it. This is a surprising product that came out like near the end of the year. Maybe they brought it out for like the holiday season because I think a lot of people were drawn to this. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.